Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Which one of you had war with Iran on your 2024 bingo card? You can go ahead and mark that one out, or at least get your Sharpie hovering over it, because we may be on the cusp of it. Again, with the lack of details and the early nature of this breaking news, the 2 Katyusha rockets have been reported to hit an Iraqi airbase that also has some U.S. troops there. We don't know if Iran did it. We don't know if there was, some private entity that accidentally fired off some Katyusha rockets. This is all just a big boo-boo, but I'm sure we will have more information as long as you stay here on WBAP. We can pass it along as soon as we get it. So, it's just great. It's just another thing, huh? We had the Trump got shot in the ear. The other guy dropped out. We have the whole Olympic boxing thing. Did you see the Olympic pole vaulter, Bushman? Did you see the pole vaulter guy that knocked off the crossbar with his package? I saw it. I don't know if it was men or women's division. I can't. There's no way of knowing. Victoria Coates from the Heritage Foundation. Sorry for a horrible intro there, but we do have some breaking news on the Middle East tensions. Is this going to have any effect on Kamala Harris? Because, foreign policy issues are something that's on a lot of voters' radar, and this could be another demerit against her. What do you think, Victoria?
Well, it's certainly a very interesting time, and thank you for having me on. I think with the Middle East in particular, you can see uniquely in American history a contrast. 4 years ago this week, President Trump's administration was putting the final touches on what were to become the Abraham Accords, which were announced the second week in August of 2020. And here we are 4 years later, and we have our greatest ally in the Middle East, Israel, in an unprecedented danger that they haven't seen for 50 years, and at the worst moment of the U.S.-Israel alliance in history. The relationship is so bad.
Explain the importance of the Abraham Accords, because I don't. That's not like something I hear people talking about at parties.
Well, you would have 4 years ago. But
right.
The Abraham Accords are the first peace deals between Israel and Muslim-majority countries in some quarter of century. 25 or now almost 30 years ago, we had the deal with Jordan under President Clinton. It hadn't been tried for 25 years, and after the Palestinians refused to engage in peace talks, President Trump took us in another direction and said, well, let's see if we can get some other bilateral deals. And we got the first two with UAE and Bahrain. Those are the ones that were signed at the White House that September. And then in December, we got the deal with the Kingdom of Morocco. So, that was peace breaking out between Israel and America's allies in North Africa and the Middle East, a much, much better situation for our national security than the just disaster that we're potentially facing tonight.
So, look, that's a strong little data point for the American people to know. But what if the media never reports it? Well,
that's why outlets such as WBAP are so important. That's why we at the Heritage Foundation will always come on whenever you ask us, because this is our way to communicate with the American people, just the clear policy differences that we have here.
Okay, the other issue going on in the Middle East, still Israel's not getting along with Hamas. Can you believe it? What's going on with the assistance to Israel? Are we still withholding things? Did we ever get that resolved?
No, my understanding is we are still slow walking a number of different capabilities that they need. And, if you go back a few years, Obama did this in 2014 under then Secretary of State John Kerry, during a previous Gaza war where they held up, I believe they were javelins, that Israel really needed. And this is not when you do this, not when your best friend is in a shooting war. You need to give them what they need to win the war. And that's what's different this time from all the other Gaza wars, is that Israel has said, we're going to win this thing. They're going to be defeated. They're going to have to sue for terms. And I think that changes the whole paradigm between the Israelis and Palestinians, because that's never happened before.
All right, well, continuing on the foreign policy front, what's the situation with Ukraine and Russia? That has completely fallen out of the headlines in the last 3 months. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, it went from being the most important thing happening on the globe when the Biden-Harris administration desperately wanted to pass their bloated emergency supplemental to the tune of some $70-80 billion earlier this year. But now that's been passed. Now that debt has been laden onto our children and grandchildren. They don't really want to talk about it anymore. And one thing that was in the news earlier this month was that F-16s, our fighter jets, are now going to Ukraine. And the question we've had at Heritage is why wasn't this a good idea 2 years ago when the Ukrainians had the momentum and Russia was back on its heels? Why didn't you try to win the war if that's what you're in it to do, and not just get the United States involved in these endless frozen conflicts? That's what they now say is our best outcome, is something like South Korea. Well, I don't necessarily want to have troops and supplies going to Ukraine, in 50, 60 years as we are still committed to South Korea. I don't think that's a desirable outcome here. Instead, I think we should have tried to win the war. And if we can't commit to winning the war, then we have to end the slaughter of Ukrainians and get this thing to a negotiated solution.
All right, Victoria Coates, Heritage Foundation, thanks for being on the James Show again. Appreciate it.
Of course. Take care.
All right, we're going to watch this closely because this could be a story that drops off the headlines and we don't talk about it again after 48 hours. Or this could be, if this does end up being like World War III, I don't think this would be considered the beginning. I think all these other conflicts, this would be like the next stepping stone toward that. What do you think? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Iran's been talking a lot of smack about striking Israel, and they just happened to strike a base where American soldiers are housed. Is that a coincidence? Or were they sending a message? 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It's an ironic song to be playing when we're at war with Iran, 1979, because the big revolution. Are you doing that on purpose? Are you being cheeky over there? You being clever, Garrett? Yeah, no one told him to be clever. So that's kind of our top story that's taken over. I mean, I had some other stuff prepared here, but who cares when we have what may be an Iranian attack on American troops? It may have reportedly happened at an Iraqi air base that I'm not going to try. All right, I'll try and pronounce it. Ain al-Assad. I would say Assad, but there's only one S. I don't know, man. I don't want to sound like an idiot either. But reportedly attacks with rockets, Katyusha rockets. Yeah, those, you've heard of them before. We know where they come from. We know who they come from. We still don't have any confirmation on deaths or injuries. So maybe this is nothing. Maybe there's just some Katyusha rockets that fell in an empty parking lot and no one was hurt or scratched or didn't even knock over a dumpster. Or maybe this is the start of our next front on World War III. We don't know. So I'll keep you all updated on that. But already I go check online and on the breaks here when I have a second to sort of re-up, especially in a breaking story like this. And what's already being passed around, of course, I hope I'm not annoying you with this, but in my little libertarian circles, they've already pulled up this 2-minute clip, and I'm only going to play like the first minute of it, of Ron Paul from the debates in 2012. Now, to set the context for this, I remember this because you were being told that Iran is about to have a nuke. Iran's been working on a nuke. We're trying to get out a nuclear deal with Iran. And they were 9 months away. And John McCain said they were 9 months away. And Mitt Romney said they were 9 months away. And Rick Santorum said they were 9 months away. We may have to do a preemptive strike. John McCain joked about it. Bomb, 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 Iran. And so it was one of the topics at the Arizona debate for the 2012 election cycle. And when it comes up to Ron Paul, this is the part that the internet has pulled out and is passing around that shows who's right and who's wrong. Because since this happened, do we have any evidence that they got a nuclear weapon, much less misused it? Has our current stance on Iran? And look, Republicans and Democrats, you both get a demerit for your failure in the Iranian foreign policy. Are we buddies with Iran yet? Have they changed their ways? Have they improved their system of government? Have they stopped oppressing their people and being antagonistic to so much of the Sunni Islamic world? Or are we still kind of in the same horrible homeostasis, if not worse, that we had in 2012?
Congressman Paul, all three of your rivals here make a passionate case. All three of them make a passionate case that this is a vital U.S. national security interest. But you disagree.
I disagree because we don't know if they have a weapon. Matter of fact, there's no evidence that they have it. There is no evidence. Israel claims they do not have it, and our government doesn't.
Who are these nerds booing? How dare you try and find a reason for us to not go to war? Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Want them to get a weapon. But I think what we're doing is encouraging them to have a weapon because they feel threatened. If you look at a map of Iran, we have 45 bases around their country, plus our submarines. The Iranians can't possibly attack anybody. And we're worrying about the possibility of one nuclear weapon. Now, just think about the Cold War. The Soviets had 30,000 of them. And we talked to them. The Soviets killed 100 million people, and the Chinese, and we worked our way out of it. And if you want to worry about nuclear weapons, worry about the nuclear weapons that were left over from the Soviet Union. They're still floating around. They don't have them all detailed. So we're ready to go to war. I say going to war rapidly like this is risky and it's reckless. Now, if they're so determined to go to war, the only thing I plead with you for, if this is the case, is do it properly. Ask the people and ask the Congress for a declaration of war. This is war, and people are going to die, and you got to get a declaration of war. Just to go and start fighting. But the sanctions.
But all right, I can't let that go on forever. But the point still stands that did we need to go to war with Iran in 2012? Because there was a lot of guys on that stage that were making the case. Did we need to attack them? Did we need to bomb them? Did we need to do it? Well, we didn't. Have they attacked anyone? Have they misused a nuclear weapon? That war would have been a waste. Anybody who died in that war would have just been a sacrifice to bad decisions. So here we are. What is it now? 12 years later, Iran is still run by the same cabal of ayatollahs. They still have the same horrible human rights record. Now, they do get the plus of they didn't invade anyone around them. They didn't invade Afghanistan, or they didn't have any troops going across the border of Iraq, and they haven't really been dropping bombs on anyone. So, yeah, a lot to think about there when you put it in context. People, look, Iran's kind of a freaky place since that Iranian Revolution. It's been kind of scary in the fact that we actually saw a civilization sort of go backwards. You know, for a long time there, Baghdad was the largest city in the world, or at least in the whole, Roman Persian sphere. And before the Islamic Revolution happened, these people were walking around. The guys were wearing suits and ties. The women didn't have to have headscarves on before that. And so they were almost like an extension of Europe that just kind of burped through Turkey and further into the Middle East. And the Iranian Revolution showed that, sometimes civilizations can go backwards. It's not always a march forward where every generation gets a little freer and gets a little more open and a little more liberal with the lowercase L, not like we use it here, but not having the rules about your headscarves or walking out in public without a male relative or your husband. And, that's kind of the cautionary tale about Iran is they took a population that was already fairly westernized, for lack of a better term. I don't want to say like non-Muslim, or because it's not really westernized. They don't make their ladies cover their heads in China and Japan and Korea and on the other side of the planet, or even in India or other places. It's just that one little religion and that one group left that has the headscarf laws. That's so weird. But they went backwards. They were more like us. They looked like they could just be interchangeable with any American in an American downtown before the Iranian Revolution happened, all the way up through the 70s. They've gone backwards, and it's just been really disturbing that they've stayed backwards now for 45 years? And then here we are still dealing with them. Same goobers in control. The Ayatollahs, whatever the new guy is, probably Khomeini or Khamenei or some variation of that. And the chatter that you've been hearing on probably this page 2 of the news, metaphorically speaking, is the idea and the expectation that Iran would launch an attack on Israel. Now, that's after the Hamas and Hezbollah guys got killed, 2 weeks ago? We've been sort of expecting that, but this is what we got. The breaking news today, since the start of the James Show, we learned that there was a rocket attack on an air base in Iraq that houses U.S. troops. Stay tuned, because these news updates with Eric Bushman are a little more important today than they usually are. You got any comments on that? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to play Dead or Alive. If you want to go see Santana and Counting Crows at Dickies Arena on August 15th, You can go ahead and call in and line up. I'm going to give you the name of 10 celebrities. You have to tell me if they're dead or alive. James, that sounds like an easy game. Yeah, it's a real easy game. And someone's going to get 2 tickets to see Santana and Counting Crows at Dickies Arena. And that's a good place to see a concert in August. Why? Because it's air conditioned. Yes, I am old. I do not need to stand out in the hot heat of August in Texas. But go ahead and load up the phones if you want to take a chance. I got to give them away to somebody. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. For those of you who aren't going to play on the show, you can play along with your car. And if you want tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So just stay tuned right here because I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm waiting for more information on this assumed to be Iranian reportedly attack on an Iraqi airbase with some U.S. soldiers in it. And look, I know Mark Levin coming up after me is going to be knocking it out of the park here in about 15 minutes or so. But look, when this show is over, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to listen to the news update at the top of the hour before I go on about my day, because this could be nothing, something we forget about in 48 hours. This could be something where we look back on. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but this could be like the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, just the first domino that topples, or maybe like the second or third dominoes wherever you put Israel and Ukraine or whatever else is going on in the foreign policy sphere. But another example of the don't not working. You remember the don't warning? What's your word to them? What do you say to them?
Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't.
Wow, you really scared them. I guess that worked. But listen, I have criticism for many in the foreign policy space. Team Blue is a huge disappointment when it comes to foreign policy. Team Red, part of it, not much better. Iran is something I've been keeping my eye on because 16 years ago, you were told that Iran is 9 months away from having a nuclear weapon. In fact, they're so close to having a nuclear weapon, we should probably strike them now. And we have intelligence that Iran is going to strike Israel. Now, that's a story that's a headline for the last 2 weeks. Here's the same headline in 2010. Now, that headline never came through. So if we took these people on their word, and listen, this one's coming from Team Red. If we took these people on their word and thought, well, he's a trustable guy, I guess we need to strike Iran, you would have been wrong to do so, because this prediction was wrong.
Well, Israel's got a problem because
I should tell you, that's John Bolton, by the way.
Well, Israel's got a problem because once the fuel rods are inserted into the reactor, an attack on the reactor would almost certainly release radiation into the atmosphere, given where Bushehr is located, right on the Persian Gulf, possibly into the water as well. So from Israel's point of view, if they were going to do anything militarily about Bushehr, they've only got a few days until the fuel rods are inserted. Their problem is, of course, they've got the rest of Iran's nuclear weapons program, the uranium enrichment facilities and so on, to worry about too. And I don't think Israel has the luxury to attack in the next few days, wait a few months and attack again. So that's why I think if this goes forward, and it certainly looks like it's going to, it's a major plus for the Iranian weapons program.
Wrong, sir. That turned out to be horribly wrong. That was terrible advice. You would have been leading us into a war with Iran under false pretenses. They're just a few days away from putting nuclear rods into a nuclear reactor. They're just a few days away from spinning up enough enriched uranium that they can make a nuclear bomb. None of those things have come to happen, and we didn't strike Iran. So whatever faction of Team Red you represent, you were wrong. The people that wanted to strike Iran were wrong. On the other side of the aisle, I've got some tough love for both of you guys. Team Blue, what happened to all your deals that you worked out? You remember under the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton went over there and worked out a deal with Iran. And it was just a coincidence that around that time that there were some soldiers that violated Iranian naval space, or whatever that's called, within the nautical boundaries. And they weren't taken hostage. They were rightfully detained for being across an invisible line. And we're not giving them billions of dollars in a ransom for our soldiers. We just owed them this money from some frozen assets in like 1979 or something. That's what the pallets of cash for. That's just a coincidence that is happening at the same time. And similarly, under Joe Biden, pallets of cash ended up going to Iran. And he had an excuse for it. But, if you had a nickel for every time a Democrat president in the last 20 years sent pallets of billions of dollars of cash to Iran, you'd only have 2 nickels. But that's still too many. Here's Hillary bragging about the great Iranian deal that she worked out with peace in the Middle East. We made a deal. Ended a success.
We said, look, we've got to get the world behind us to force them to the negotiating table. So I spent 18 months putting together the coalition that imposed international sanctions on the Iranians, that forced them finally to begin negotiating with us.
Yeah, well, your sanctions worked so good. And I'm trying to be somewhat fair here, not forcing balance on it, but both teams deserve smoke for how they've handled Iran in the past. Team Blue and Team Red, you people who just itching to go to war with Iran or itching to just hand them over billions of dollars. Can't there be some nice little middle ground? And that's one of the positive things I can say about Trump is he deviated from the norm in foreign policy because that was a weird overlap. Team Red and Team Blue, they were just going to keep Afghanistan going on. But they both like wars when it suits their purpose, but claim to be anti-war when it doesn't. And really, the only person whose rhetoric has withstood the test of time, Ron Paul, and strangely, Donald Trump on this one. All right, that's going to about do it for the James Show today. I just want to leave you with this other scary idea here. John McCain, bomb, 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 Iran.
That old Beach Boys song, Bomb Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb. Anyway.
Aren't you glad we didn't listen to that? That makes me think we shouldn't listen to that when you hear it today. Be super skeptical of these people that are going to rush to war, no matter what the result of this attack is. But stay right here so you can know what the results of the attack are. And whenever we find out what happens next, you'll find out here on the James Show on WBAP. Actually, you'll probably hear it from our top of the hour news on WBAP before my show gets on. But that's where we shine. So just keep it right here. If World War III pops off, we'll tell you all about it, and I'll even make some jokes for you. I'll do a whole monologue. It'll be great. Sebastian Maniscalco, hilarious comedian. He's so big. He's going to be playing at the American Airlines Center coming up in 5 days on August 10th. Now, you can go get your tickets already at Ticketmaster.com, but that's one of many tickets we're giving away. Text the word funny to 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Funny, F-U-N-N-Y, to 800-288-9227 for your chance to win a pair of tickets from us. That's going to do it for the James Show. Stay put. Mark Levin coming up next. This has been James Parker on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.